The Calgary Flames will not be members of the 2023 postseason. Oh, welcome to Afterburner. Ryan Pinder alongside Rhett Warner. Rhett, it felt like they didn't deserve the chance to get in at times this year, but the 2022-23 version, not good enough to be the top 8 in the West. How are you?
They were very blah all year. They gave us a little excitement at the end, but probably where they deserve to be, sadly.
Yeah, and you know what? I would nothing. This is a Flame show, and we'll talk a lot about this game. Huge tip of the cap to the Nashville Predators, who are doing it without one of the best defensemen on planet Earth, without arguably their 4 best skaters, Yossi, plus Duchesne, plus Johansson, plus Phil Forsberg. That is an incredible run they've been on to allow themselves to stay alive through 80 games in a chase for a playoff spot.
Absolutely. Tip of the cap, like you said, they've battled the team that should have faltered a month ago. They already threw in the towel, and they're still there. But I will say this. They give a hard effort, and Saros plays awesome. The goaltending is great. They aren't that good. They're beatable.
No.
Like the Flames should beat that team. I'm sorry.
Well, and you know what? Let's look at the 2 goals. So Markstrom was very good on this night, and I thought made some big saves, but it's a gift wrap misplay of the puck from Markstrom behind the net for the first goal. Second goal bounces off the referee's skate and goes to the opposite side of the net. Everyone thinks it's going to. Easy tap in. And then you're up 1-0 in the shootout with your season on the line. The Calgary Flames went to Nick Ritchie in round 3 of the shootout. And I shouldn't laugh, but is there something that could put a bow on the season more from a Daryl Sutter perspective than that baffling decision in round 3 when Tyler Toffoli watched, when, Elias Lindholm was watching? That's the guy with the season on his twig. He scores, you're still alive.
Yeah, he really symbolizes Flames and the success. I don't know. The only thing I can say is that they must do shootouts in practice, and perhaps Ritchie is just damn good in those shootouts. I have no idea. There's no reason. Like, that's just it. Daryl ain't going on a hunch there. He was going on
why didn't we see him in Vancouver? Not that it's like, it felt like a hunch, because I don't know that we've seen Nick Ritchie in the shootout before, and I think he's played in a few. But
he might. Why didn't you see him in the shootout in Vancouver? Because they didn't score, so maybe he was trying to change it up.
So Lindholm, who was their best player on the weekend in Vancouver, and I thought another solid game tonight, doesn't get a chance in either shootout to help his team get 2 points.
I would like to ask Lindholm, does he like shootouts?
Yeah.
And is he good at them?
Yeah.
Because it's easy for us to say, why don't you put Lindholm in?
Totally.
But if Lindholm is in the dressing room and say, I really don't like shootouts, I get nervous and piss down my leg, then there's a reason he's not out there. We don't know.
A lot of good players weren't good at shootouts. Like Jerome, you'd remember.
Yeah. Terrible.
Not his best. Yeah, give him someone chasing him with back pressure, and I bet you he's 50%. In shootouts, he was probably 25.
So I'd love to say, Jesus, Daryl, what were you thinking? Why wasn't Lindholm in? But Daryl's not that bold to just go out on a limb. I don't think like that. Yeah. And if he is, well, there's your results, Big D. That's what you get.
I mean, he likes Ritchie. We know that.
Clearly.
He's sitting, one of the top prospects in the organization too, but one, really, to watch Nick Ritchie down the stretch here, it just was a little bit odd to look up and think, is this the third best option? Maybe it is. Maybe Nick Ritchie's a savant. I'll do the work. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll see what Nick Ritchie is on his career for shootouts. It just felt fucking weird.
It feels real weird. If he's that good, the team probably keeps him just 4 shootouts. And like you said, you had a shootout a couple days ago. So if he is really good, why isn't he in that one? Because that game mattered a lot too. So no, I have no idea what the reasoning was, but it's too late now. And to pin everything on Nick Ritchie and his shootout not being successful in that one shootout is you're missing the point of the whole season. It was
it's true.
It was a dysfunctional year from start to finish.
So you had said it, I want to say a week and a half ago. They're 7-3-2 in their last 12. Like, oh my goodness, look at this. They will close, now that they're eliminated. No one cares what happens Wednesday against San Jose. It doesn't affect, whether they're in or out. I imagine you'll see some youngsters, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But with their season on their line, their final 18 games, they go 10-4-4. That's pretty damn good. It's frustrating because you could see that this team has a lot of skill and that there is an environment where, they can be good and beat good teams. There was also a couple characteristic of this year's version, losses to bad teams, but 10-4-4 is a really nice stretch. The problem was what you did in the 60 some odd games before those final 18. You put yourself in a spot where 10-4-4 is not good enough.
Ugh. Yeah, and 10-4-4 is not good enough, and the team you're trying to catch wasn't real sharp. So,
right. Yeah.
So that shows you how shitty you were for the first 60. So, you can't. I don't know. I don't know if you call it false hope. Going 10-4-4 down the stretch here. If that's what you are, like, that's the hard part now is when Jankowski scored 4 goals at the end of the season, or whoever it was that year. Well, is he a 20-goal scorer or is he a 10-goal scorer because he had a great night, right? Like, to me, the fact you can't beat Nashville, and like we said, I give Nashville a lot of credit, but they're terrible.
Yeah,
they're terrible. They're slow. They're beat up. They're doing what they have to survive, but they're not a good team.
Try to imagine the Flames with
never had the lead
Anderson and their top line. That's basically what Nashville's doing right now.
Yeah.
And UC Saros is all world, and we're seeing over the last few years, like a Vezina candidate last year, like the environment's not a great one. There was a ton of chances. The Flames could have won this thing 4 times alone in overtime. I think of Weegar set up by Huberdeau. I think of Weegar set up by Backlund. Toffoli had a shot in the slot. Rasmus Anderson dances out front, can't tuck that in. Lindholm, a redirection late. I mean, these aren't all saves. These are chances. But when there was a great chance that was on net, Saros was there. He was phenomenal. And you could see that as much as Yossi and Forsberg and all these other guys are great players, the identity of this club is still UC Saros. And let's remember how last year ended. Saros got hurt and they rolled into the playoffs without him. Darryl said, whoever plays Colorado, it's a waste of jet fuel in 8 days. He was right. They didn't have Saros, though.
Yeah, I would say that the last 2 games are 2 games where the Flames might say the other goalie beat them.
Yeah, Demko.
Right? They've said they've outshot other teams and this and that lots this year, but I don't think the other goalie had to be spectacular. I think Saros this game, Thatcher Demko against Vancouver was really good and maybe saved, stopped the Flames from getting 2 points. But again, this is a one-night affair.
No.
Right? Like, you had plenty, like the Chicago thing just a few days ago, a week ago, not even. You didn't even show up to play. So don't give me a sob story that, Saros stood in our way of getting in the playoffs. No.
Yeah, it's not Nick Ritchie not scoring. It's not, went off the ref's foot. It's not, we got out goalied. It's how did you put yourself in a spot through 63 games where you had to basically play almost perfect hockey for the last 20? Like, how did this team, it was a huge body of work that pushed them into this spot. It's not a single play this week, last week, whatever. It's a really, really shitty season, Rhett, and it might be the biggest miss on expectations we've seen, in your non-playing career. There were a lot of people that had the Calgary Flames as maybe not quite as good in the regular season, going to be a tough out in the playoffs. They're going to win the Pacific. I see them maybe a run to the Cup final. That was a lot of the preseason. This is a big swing and miss. We talked about it. There's blood on everyone's hands, players, GM, owner, certainly the coach. This one's going to sting because this was supposed to be year 1 of a window that ain't huge. It's probably a 3 to 4 year window. Year 1 blew up on you.
Blew up bad to the point where you're talking about a window and you wonder if that window needs to be broken and reinserted and readjusted or moved. Like, I don't know that you come back with the same group of villains to start next year. Perhaps you do, but I would suspect there'll be some change. The dissecting can start now, where they had us hanging on. thinking that maybe there's still a chance. Well, now that's come and gone.
Yep.
And the truth can start to be picked apart.
Okay, a couple items in the chat that we'll get to. I want to start with, okay, so they are now eliminated. That allows you to do some things for one whole game. But Matthew Coronado, year one of his contract of his entry level is burnt once he signed that contract. He doesn't have to play to burn it because of his age. He'll be an RFA coming out of ELC after 2 seasons, next and the following one. Playing or not doesn't change any of that. I imagine it would be a nice thing to do for a kid. And certainly Jacob Pelche, who I think looked really good for the majority of the body of work we've seen in the NHL this year. He deserves to get back in here as well. Is that sort of where you would turn to for an otherwise meaningless game 82 on Wednesday?
Yes, 100%. And I'm smirking because in my head I'm going, okay, Matthew Coronado's going to get in on Wednesday versus the Sharks, and rightfully so. I'm happy for that. What's Daryl's response to that? If it was no good to hand Pelche the reins because he hadn't earned it, what the F has Matthew Coronado done in Daryl's eyes to earn it, right? Like, is he going to be mad about it, or like, is he going to give him a shift? Is he going to shit talk him after the game again? Like, these are the mistakes that Daryl made, and I don't know how he fixes that. I can't imagine he acts the same way to Coronado that he did with Pelche, because it was a terrible way to treat someone. But it's, if you look at it, if he's pissed off that Pelche was forced upon him, why the hell's he happy Coronado is?
Well, you know what? Let's go right there then. This will be buy it or sell it for Derrick Newman of Newman Dean's Real Estate Group with CIR Realty. If you're looking to buy or sell a home, give Derrick a call. You can see his phone number up there as well as his email address, dnewman@cirrealty.ca. So buy it or sell it. Daryl's going to roll out Coronado and Pelche on Wednesday.
I buy that Daryl's going to roll out Coronado and Pelche on Wednesday. And if he doesn't, I think he's resigned himself to leaving the franchise.
It would seem like it's more about Daryl than anything else.
It would be a bit of a finger to everybody that's been bitching and moaning. So,
and to be fair, we had Frank on a couple of weeks ago, and as time passes, you learn more about situations that arose. His, and I'm paraphrasing here, his recap of what had happened with the Pelche debut after he'd been called up and was left waiting was such. Frank said Pelche just wanted to get his family out for his first game, and all the other players like, dude, like, let them know when the game is. They'll fly out the family. And Daryl just had no interest in, not tonight. Don't ask me about down the road. We'll do lineup stuff later. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but when you heard that post game, Pelche, what number is he? And he reads the statute. Like, come on, a coach knows the guy's fucking number. It's ridiculous. A bit of performance art from Daryl. Frank was saying that was his way to say, screw all of you that made me do this. I'm the coach. This is my turf. Why are you twisting my arm to get this kid all this notice of a day or two to get his family in? Lineup decisions are mine. Again, it spoke to some serious dysfunction there. It's all over now. So I think Daryl is fine to do it. But when they weren't eliminated, boy, they still didn't go to Pelche and the end.
Yeah, but that's why you don't trust that there's not more dysfunction to show. Who's he sitting? Is he going to send a message to Kadri? Sit Kadri? Like, he didn't seem to want to take Lewis out ever, and Lewis is his guy. And if he thinks he's leaving, he probably wants to give Lewis the last game, right? So, I think those two will play. I just don't think it's a happy place to be for anyone, and you almost feel bad for Coronado to have to go into that situation.
Did you see at the intermission Coronado set up in the room?
No, I didn't watch the intermission.
So, do you have any storage lockers and or shelving in your garage?
Yeah.
Well, he had a fold-up chair next to some shelving. That was not necessarily on one of the 3 walls where the stalls are, if you know how the room. He's kind of tucked beside the whiteboard, and then, they have more stalls than players, and you're into rosters as big as you want it right now. You only have a
rollout stall, don't they? Who's got the rollout? I think
they got 25, 26 guys now, because you got Gilbert and Stone on the back end, so that's 8D. Then you also have Ruzicka and Pelche, so another goal. Anyway, welcome to the big show potentially.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that more tomorrow on Barn Burner. But tonight, for me, I watched that Nashville team. Surely you like their gutsy effort, I guess, and Saros. But I keep saying it. You never had the lead against that team,
Yeah.
and they aren't that good. Like, they were horseshit. They throw pucks into the middle. They're slow. They can't forecheck you. You should the Flames should have went at them in waves, and they did for short spurts of it. But it should not have been close. It
And
should not.
a hallmark of the season in the stretches where they had really dominant pressure, just couldn't find a way to put it in, whether that's a mishandle or a missed net or
but that's where you wonder about the skill level. When you talk about a whole season where one goal, you couldn't get that one. Well, is that a sign of bad luck that you can't get one goal when you need it? Or is that a sign of what you are? 31 goal losses, is that correct? I thought I read that in the chat here. Anyway, if that is correct,
17th overtime or shootout loss of the season as well. That's also a franchise record.
Yeah,
I feel like that's more luck, but I would understand if people don't feel that way.
Yeah, look, that's the thing. I just think in general, all of those losses aren't about luck anymore. It's not 30 games of bad luck. It's the fact that you can't put the puck in the effing net. Like, you don't have the skill to do it.
Yeah, and I would push back a little on they don't have the skill to do it. I would just say you're within one more than half the games this year, and you can only find a way to win like 20 or so. Like, it's a ridiculously horrible. I think it was 52 one-goal games when you factor in empty netters, 53 tonight, if my number is correct. It's a really, really rough number. And what is the value of a toxic room versus a healthy room? Is it that one bounce a night? Because you can't say that they're not skilled enough to compete. They don't get blown out. They're in every fucking game. They're leading the league in posts. Like, it's that close to being like, wow, if you flip their overtime record to 500, give them 500 in the one goal games, like, they're fucking on home ice.
Listen, I'll give you your argument points, and that's fine. You can make those points, but I disagree with you 100%. You can't say if they didn't fucking do it.
Yeah, they didn't for sure.
There's no.
My question is, how much of that is showing up to work and there's a storm cloud every day? And how much of that is we're not?
There's some, but why is the storm cloud there to begin with? Is it because the room's shit, or is it because they don't fucking win? Like, go score the goal.
Well, no, let's be honest here. 7 games into the year, Darryl presses panic button. They're 5-2. It felt like the room was fucked before the record was bad.
Well, who's responsible for having a good attitude about things? Again, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that it was dysfunctional all the way through, but I will not point the finger at one person as opposed to the whole group. The whole group fucking failed.
Agreed.
Darryl Sutter failed. Treliving failed. Kadri failed. Huberdeau failed. Weegar was shit for most of the year. Anderson missed an open net. That's a fail. Backlund had a career high, but he didn't help the team win when he needed. That's a fail. Like, Toffoli's the only one that didn't fail you, really. Dubé didn't score enough. Mangiapane didn't score enough. Your defense wasn't that great. Tanev did get hurt. Like, the list goes on and on. You can't. If you're good enough, you score the goal. You score the goal. And you could.
Backlund got a big one tonight, but I just think, like, okay, so when I say it's a dysfunctional room, you're hearing me say this is all Darryl. I'm not saying that at all. I think for whatever reason, this mix of veterans and this coach together didn't work. And that shows up more than just, when they're not playing. I think that shows up when they're playing. There was too many nights where efforts were flat. There was too many nights where you just said, why is the coach putting a guy here? Why is this guy so missing an effort?
But that's the dysfunction, right? Where
it is. And I'm not hanging that on the coach entirely.
No, I know. But I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying you're confused because you don't know why the coach is doing it. The coach should be smarter, that has proven in the past that he is smarter than that, yet looks a bit stubborn and out of it, but putting guys out there that shouldn't be out there. So then you're like, well, if he's a Hall of Fame coach and he knows better, why is he doing it? Well, maybe it's because the kids in the room aren't doing what they're supposed to do, and he's trying to send them. Like, we can go back to all of it, and whether it's skill, dysfunctional.
Yep,
something ain't right.
I'm gonna add another buy or sell just because I'm greedy, and I got to. If you're going good right now, it's a statement. So if you're buying it, you agree. If you're selling it, you don't. Missing the playoffs means Brad Treliving won't be back next year. Buy or sell?
I'll buy it. I think missing the playoffs is huge. I don't think the ownership, Mr. Murray, loves missing the playoffs. I think he spends a lot of money on this team and he expects to make the playoffs. I think Treliving's been here a long time, and it win, lose, 1 year this, 1 year that. I think that, and I also wonder if Brad Treliving's tired of it. Like, it can be a roller coaster and it's a lot of work, and he didn't look to me. We didn't talk to him much, but you didn't see his face around much. It didn't look like he was enjoying this roller coaster of a season either.
No. And then I guess if we're going to go down that road, you got vibes on Daryl, or you don't want to let the dust settle?
I think Daryl has more of the owner's ear than Mr. Treliving has.
I agree with that. And he's got the contract, right?
Yes.
Murray don't like paying guys to not work, I'm guessing.
No, and that's not for 1 year. That's a couple more.
Yeah. Which, I wonder about the order of things. And you asked Frank about this. We talked about this. Is it an awkward party if the GM's on the way out doing exit interviews? And a lot of the conclusions he draws are the coach has to go, but he's neutered essentially because he doesn't have the power to fire a coach. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if neither are back. And I would understand if both the GM and the coach just said, you know what, this isn't the fit right now. I think that'd be tough for Daryl to do, given how stubborn he appears to be. But like you said, he's a sharp guy. I think he's seen some of his tried, tested, and true methodologies.
Well, here's what I'll just say. Since we're playing the what if game, if Treliving ain't back and Daryl gets his opinion on, or gets some say on who's taking Mr. Treliving's spot, changes the whole thing. Because if Daryl ain't happy with the guys in that room and he's got his buddy as a GM, he's telling his buddy, get these pricks out of here. To be fair, that's a scenario that worries me. I don't know that Daryl's great at collaboration, and his first spin at GM, I thought was going to be his only. It did not go well. There was way too much term and money to guys that were on the wrong side of their careers. And there was just, not great draft and development track record. It was not good. And so here's the problem is a lot of the issues that we see here. It's like, oh, well, geez, like, get some young kids in, add some speed. Don't get married to this veterans, which drove you nuts. Why are you still rolling out 17 and 22 every damn night without even looking at some of the young kids? I feel like if Daryl has some say on the GM, he may as well have puppet strings. You're probably right, but who knows how it's going to play out. Those are all factors that are quite possible where Daryl has a say on things. And some of the things you bring up, I think they're already old. A lot of these contracts that we have and the players that we have.
It's true.
I don't think
older this offseason.
I don't think the fountain of youth is something that these guys are finding.
No, for sure. I'd agree with you on that. Oh, so a triple header for buy it or sell it. Thank you, Rhett. Putting up a lot of hypotheticals there. Derrick Newman of Newman Dean's Real Estate Group, 403-619-6661, part of CIR Realty. There you go. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like, so now they're eliminated. It's like, okay, let's tackle these big offseason issues. We got a few months to stretch out on a lot of these. They will play Wednesday against San Jose. It is absolutely a disappointing and massively underwhelming and underachieving season for this group. Was there something you liked tonight? We'll do, I suppose, your cheers of the game for BK Bowfort Liquor, located across from Winsport. Mandeep and his crew. If you're heading out of town, grab a nice bottle of something, maybe some craft beer, some specialty wines and liqueurs. It's all there. BK Bowfort Liquor.
I was supposed to stop in there this weekend, and I didn't get a chance because I was running late. Damn it. Anyway, I'll get out there. My cheers of the game, Mackenzie Weegar. I was hard on him. I didn't like how he played. I thought his effort was piss poor for the first 4 or 5 months of the season. I think he has been dynamite and possibly the Flames' best player tonight.
I liked him tonight. He had the game on his stick twice in overtime. Could not beat UC Saros. First, that little short pass from Huberdeau to spring him in. Couldn't find a hole there. And then Backlund zipped it out to him as well. It felt like, man, they're not scoring on those. This thing's going to shootout. Those are great chances.
And you know what I liked that changed in my opinion of him was the fact that he looked like he cared.
He competed pretty damn hard the second half of the year. And you know what?
He was competing. And at the start of the year, I didn't think I thought he was a sourpuss that he got traded out of Florida and didn't want to be here.
I think what's helped him a lot was playing with Rasmus Anderson. I know we went and played with Zadorov for a bit when Tanev was out, but I really liked when you got those two together. I think it allowed Uyghur to be more of what he was in Florida for whatever reason. And it's not that, he wasn't playing with a good player in Tanev, but for whatever reason, that match with Anderson really allowed him to pop a bit offensively, creating chances. And I thought Hanifin and Tanev was a great match as well. You hadn't seen much of that in the time that Tanev's been here.
Nope. Who's yours?
I got Jacob Markstrom, which is tough on a night where he throws it out in front. But after that, he was almost perfect. I mean, it's off the ref to the wrong side of the net. It's when I saw the play, I'm like, why is he looking over the wrong shoulder? Well, the reason is the puck was going there. It hits the toe of the referee, comes out over here, the wrong side for where everyone thought the puck was going. And it's an easy tap in for the Preds to take their second lead of the game. Stops the first two in the shootout. Overtime, big saves.
Close on that third one.
And I feel like as much as we talk about other things, you could tell the story of how this club was feeling and doing and where they were at, wins and losses, by how Jacob Markstrom played. That 10-4-4 mark I mentioned,
yep,
he has been in net for 22 of those 23 games to get to here. So all of that 18 stretch, there's only one game in there he didn't play. It was one of the Anaheims. He got started and hooked in one Anaheim. Dan Vladar got the entire tee of the other Anaheim game. It's been him every other night. And so when Markstrom was awful for 3 months, guess how this team did? Awful. When he was okay out of the gate, they were okay out of the gate. He's been a much better goaltender down the stretch, and that's allowed them to, yes, with some help from Winnipeg backing up and falling, a little tumble from them, but it's a really respectable final month and a half of the season.
He was, yes. And it's shitty that he waited till then to start playing hockey, because probably you get that kind of goaltending, you're not worried about missing the playoffs, but too little, too late.
That's your cheers of the game. Mackenzie Weegar, number 52, Jacob Markstrom, number 25. Your two tips of the cap for BK Bowfort Liquor, craft beer, wine, spirits. Call Mandy 403-247-4722 or give them an email, bkbowfortliquor@gmail.com. I'm going to see if we've got Daryl available. I'm just looking for, there it is. Let's do it. Daryl Sutter, post-game, 3-2 shootout loss to Nashville. Their postseason hopes, poof, up in smoke tonight.
Oh, it's too bad. Thought we deserved better. Had all the really good chances in overtime. Fight back in the third, tie it. Tough.
We hadn't seen Nick Ritchie in a shootout situation for you guys. What was it thinking using him?
He scored on him in a shootout before. You pretty much, I think, just watch. You probably got to go somewhere glove on him, other than unless you're somebody like Johnny that can do lots of different things.
And I guess choosing him over, say, Toffoli or Mangiapane, I guess that's just
not much difference. If you do the percentages or odds, it's, you know what, you're going on practice and going on guys that have scored against him prior. It's not the point, really. It's had no bearing on the game. The difference is those great chances in overtime. 3-2 game. It's like a playoff game, right?
Now that you've missed the playoffs, when you look back at this season, what?
I don't think Derrick would do that yet, right?
Not yet.
Yeah, I mean, we got another game to win here.
Daryl, I know it's excuse me, I know it's fresh, but on a night like this where the playoff hope ends, what are those nights like for a coach for the group?
Well, we want to make the playoffs, right? That's what you coach for.
Interesting. Still have one more game to win. I kind of get that, but it sounded like Daryl didn't know they were eliminated. I know he knows, and the answer at the end is almost tricky as well. You want to make the playoffs, right? But
that's his way of saying I don't want to talk about it. We can talk about it on Thursday morning when the season is officially over. Just like you said, we got months to dissect this and make well, we don't get to make the adjustments, but they can ask questions for hours on Thursday.
The 4 chances in overtime he references. Weegar set up by Huberdeau on the 2-on-1. Weegar set up by Backlund, stopped by Saros. Rasmus Anderson was he was the second chance of overtime. He walks out front, nearly tucks it in. and somewhere in there was a Toffoli in the slot.
Well,
Those are 4 monster stops.
they were monster stops. The one comment that upsets me, and it wasn't a ignorant comment by any stretch, but the fact that, we battled back in the third. You shouldn't have had to battle back.
Yeah.
You should go out and win that game and get ahead and put Nashville in your rearview mirror. You never had the lead. And yeah, Markstrom makes a bad play and then they get a bad bounce, but the bad bounce was halfway through the third period almost, or however far into the third. Go get the lead. Like, that is a team you should be able to beat. So I just don't like the fact that they finally found a way to come back and win some games after getting down. But that's the time of year where you don't want to be coming back and putting that risk and having to overcome those obstacles. It's just another stressor and indicator that you're maybe not ready for the game. Like, enough. Or like, how many games in a row did they give up the first goal over the last week to 10 days? Right? Like, it's no good. 2-goal leads are given up. That's 2
against Vancouver in both trips to Vancouver. They fell behind against Winnipeg, if I'm correct, but then did have a really nice response to that. The Chicago game, I'm trying to remember. It feels like the Anaheim game, they needed to rally, tie it, and then heroics from Lucic and Stone in the third.
Yeah.
There's been too much chasing here, and that's exhausting. And look, they showed more muster than I think a lot of people thought they had, but you can make life easier on yourself. They don't all have to be rallying back from down 2-0.
No, exactly. You put a team to bed. Nashville looked exhausted. They're running around. They can't play D. They don't have the guns to compete. They are hanging on. Get after them and put them to bed. And some people say, well, they did. They just couldn't score. No, there's too many games in the last 10 days where that situation didn't need to play out. And it was the same in all of them. You gave up leads and had to come from behind in all of those games. That's not a recipe for success. And it ain't playoff hockey. I'm sorry. I think it's been awesome to watch this year, but I don't think 3-goal leads are going to evaporate like they did during the regular season once the playoffs start.
I'd agree. And, we always say the whistles go away in the playoffs, and that's kind of not true. But what happens is game 1, it's normal. Game 2, a little less. Game 2, and then by the time you're in game 5, shit, they want to stay out of the way. We're not going to determine this. Like,
tonight was a great example. In overtime, Anderson should have had a penalty. He tackled. I don't know who he tackled for the one-timer in front of the net that Saros made the save on, but that's a penalty, right?
Yeah.
Like, the whistle was put away for that one. So that's what happens to playoffs.
We should note, before we got this game into overtime and saw those glorious chances and saves from Saros, and then the shootout where they led 1-0 and then fell in rounds 3 and 4, the power play finishes 0 for 4 on this night. The penalty kill 6 for 6. They might have generated more on their 6 penalty kills than they did in their 4 power plays. And if you're going to go out and your season's done, wasn't it fitting that it was a 1-goal beyond regulation setback where the power play couldn't get you 1? And despite some chances and penalty killing going well, it just felt like, of course, they were going to lose in overtime. And of course, that power play didn't give them anything tonight. 1 goal would have changed the entire complexion of this game on a man advantage.
100%. And that's why I still question the skill level. I mean, we argue about it a little bit, and we can think that it's the room or the style of play the coach wants us, and I could be wrong, but I just feel like when you're on the power play, your skill should be able to overcome some of these obstacles, and you should be able to score some goals, and they just don't do it.
Nice to see another guy get his first NHL career goal against the Calgary Flames.
Beauty. Really good.
Igor Afanasyev.
Mm-hmm.
Nice to meet you. And of course you were scoring tonight. The
Yes.
only thing I was more certain of is that Mark Jankowski was going to score against his old team, but he already did that this year.
Can't believe you didn't bet on him.
Yeah. Okay. Couple more comments to get to. Flames need youth and speed. They looked really slow against Chicago. They look really slow and they lose. It feels like getting max effort is tough from these guys sometimes. I didn't mind the effort tonight, but where are you at on that? I also think there's some guys in the rafters that can help you with that.
I think sometimes we get caught up watching our own team all the time, and we don't take notice of how good and talented other teams are with kids playing. So I would agree that it's time to get some more in there. And those kids push other people to be better. Right? Like if you're Dylan Dubé and there's a couple young kids coming up, guess what? Dylan Dubé's on the hot seat. You don't want to perform? I got these kids right here. They're ready to go. So feel free to either chip in or get the hell out of the way.
This from Flamer Kirk. And I do have my priorities wrong. Two things to touch. Number one, how have I gone this long without talking about the cat over your right shoulder? I believe you introduced us to him once on the show at some point. Please give us an introduction for the Afterburner audience for the first time.
That's my Florida Panthers trophy. That's what we got. That's what I was pissed off I got after going to the Stanley Cup Finals in 95, 96. I wanted the team to match the NHL playoff bonus because I was broke. Instead, we got this trophy, and now it's my favorite possession in the world.
I was going to say, at the time, you're awesome. Like, I could take the cash, but here you are, how many years later? That money's gone at some bar somewhere in Miami. You've got something left now.
It even spins around like it's a beauty.
It's a big old Pantero. Does it have a name?
No.
And does it stay in Calgary, or does it come to Buffalo, or is that none of your business?
That stays right there, bad boy.
I like that.
I don't know if you can see all that. It's got everyone's name engraved on it and everything. So
that was 96 rookie year Stanley Cup final.
Yep.
Cool. I think it needs a name, but it's just me. Other than that, pretty cool. Last one for you. A lot of people really impressed with what they've seen since the trade deadline from Troy Stecher.
Mm-hmm.
There was not a lot of fanfare made about the trade. Nick, the Ritchie brothers going back and forth was more a hubbub than any other part of that deal. He's turned out to be quite a find for this club. Scores again tonight. That's 3 as a Calgary Flame. And we heard them singing his praises on the broadcast. It's not hard to find people saying they should get them some Troy Stecher for next year, despite the fact that I believe they've already got 7 guys under contract for next year. If you see the return of Oliver Shillington.
Well, that's a big question, right? Is Shillington coming back? But even so, wow. I think Stetcher's been great. I think he's played his ass off. Is there any concern that he's playing his ass off because it's a contract year? Like, do we look that deep at it?
I just see a guy that cares a lot. Yep. And on this team, that stands out. And that's probably a huge indictment on the players. But for someone that gives a fuck as much as he does, that might blend in other locker rooms. It doesn't here.
Yeah, I bring that up only because it does happen with guys where they're playing for their lives really trying to get a new contract. I don't know that that's Stecher. I think he's playing his ass off because that's what he is and that's who he is. So I've really liked him. I think you'd enjoy having him back. He has a bit of infectious energy to him, punching the glass. He's excited. Yeah, sign him up. Don't overpay. Please don't overpay.
Yeah, and that is the whole thing. I think everyone loves Troy Stecher at 1.25 or whatever it is he's making. But the question will be, what's he worth? What other option does he have? Is term going to win the day? Is it top dollar? And you're over the cap. So we already thought they had to move a defenseman before you had, geez, look at this guy. They got to keep him too. If Oliver Shillington comes back and you don't move a D, Stetcher 7, who's in the press box here? And there's some ifs there. Oliver Shillington might never play a game again, but we saw him working out last week. It does feel like a summer that there's certainly room to divest of a defenseman and recoup some of the assets you've thrown out the door to get some players at the deadline the last few years, 2 of the last 3 years.
Well, we got all summer to break it down. If the question is, would I want Stetcher back? The answer is yes, at the right price. Yeah,
fair. Okay. And I'm sorry, I get very excited about now we can get into the mythology and the methodology, the GM talk. But it's like, yeah, they're going to make a lot of decisions between now and probably July 1, where that's still a long ass way away. Playoffs will start next Monday. We'll have a barn burner tomorrow. Anything else front of mind? I mean,
well, my front of mind, to be quite honest with you, is I hope there's fireworks. There won't be, but I hope there's fireworks that come out of the year-end meetings. I hope there's some real honesty with the media. about what the F went on in this season. Good luck.
What was that? I don't want to drag this on too long, but okay. So you get dragged into an exit meeting. Are you just carte blanche? Here's exactly how I feel. Are you sugarcoating it to protect people you know, or because the GM, you can tell he wants to hear a certain thing? Like, what is that like?
No, I mean, I know me personally, I'm not good at sugarcoating, so I was fairly honest. I think there'll be guys, maybe sometimes not as honest as I've been on the podcast, it is outspoken and vocal, but you got to tell the truth, because if you're bullshitting, then nothing changes and you're stuck with the same pile of garbage next year.
All right. We'll have a Barberta tomorrow. It'll be somewhere around 10:40 to 12:30 from our studios in Mardeloop, where I am tonight. Rhett, say goodnight to the Panther. Big thank you to our sponsors, Derrick Newman of Newman Dean's Real Estate with CIR Realty. Also, BK Bowfort Liquor, our buddy Mandeep. Fine spirits, wines, craft beer. If you want something special, maybe it's a gift, knows what he's talking about. Go say hello on your way out of town to the mountains, or if you're out in that Windsport west end of the city. See you tomorrow.
Adios.
All right. There's Afterburner. Flames playoff hopes over. 1 game to go Wednesday against San Jose.